Welcome to your weekly AI City Update. Don't forget to subscribe for more AI updates.
This is not a concept reel. These are 3 real outputs from the Gemini web app, open in Chrome, an interactive orbital laboratory, a controlled image edit, and a downloadable astronaut video. Each has a catch. The app breaks its layout. One image detail is hard to verify, and the video misses the requested duration. So I'm not only asking whether Gemini can generate, I want to know whether it can build, take direction, and recover when the first answer fails. Let us test it with the screen recording left on. Here are the rules. I am using the Gemini web app in Google Chrome. This is not a Chrome side panel demo, and I am not pretending the browser itself wrote the code. I will give Gemini 3 production-style jobs: keep the prompts visible, test the outputs on screen, and show the weak points as well as the wins. First, it has to build an interactive 3-dimensional style experience with no external libraries. Second, it has to create and then precisely edit a 16:9 campaign image. Third, Omni has to turn the same creative direction into motion. No judging from a pretty thumbnail. The output has to work. I started with the hardest test: build a polished orbital laboratory as one self-contained web app, using only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No external libraries and no stock images. The brief asks for a star field, a glowing sun, orbiting planets, a control panel, adjustable time and trails, plus a view that can rotate and zoom. That matters because a model can write a convincing explanation without producing a convincing interface. Here we can watch the artifact being assembled in Canvas, then switch straight into the preview. The first useful signal is that this is not a static mock-up. The planets move. The timescale slider changes the simulation. Trail length is adjustable. Orbit trails can be switched off. Pause and resume respond. The view can be dragged, zoomed, and reset. Visually, the result is much stronger than a bare coding sample. The panel hierarchy is clear. The blue-on-black styling fits the space theme. The star field has depth, and the custom projection gives the system a convincing 3-dimensional feel without importing a 3-dimensional framework. There is also real code behind the preview. The Code tab exposes the document, styling, canvas drawing, animation loop, and interaction logic in one file. But the first pass is not finished. Look at the ringed planet on the left. At the default view, it pushes into the control panel. That is exactly the kind of defect a glossy demo might hide. Instead, I give Gemini a narrow correction: fix the composition and projection so every planet stays inside the central viewport, and add click to focus without flattening the design. Gemini rebuilds the app and explains the intended changes: pull the initial view back, adjust the pitch, preserve the controls, and improve focus behavior. The important proof is the next preview. The ringed planet now sits inside the scene rather than colliding with the interface, and the wider system is easier to read. So for code, this is a genuine win. One prompt produced a functional animated prototype. One targeted follow-up fixed a visible layout error. I would still review accessibility, mobile behavior, performance, and the full source before shipping it. And this is a custom canvas projection, not a production physics engine. But as a path from idea to working interactive proof, it is fast, visual, and surprisingly capable. Next, I move to image creation inside the same Gemini web app. The prompt is deliberately specific: a premium 16:9 visual for a fictional product called Orbital, with a chrome astronaut over the neon futurist skyline of Harare, Zimbabwe at night, one luminous blue planet, thin magenta orbit trails, and room for campaign copy. The first result lands close to the brief. We get the wide format, chrome astronaut, night skyline, blue planet, magenta energy, and useful open space on the left. It feels like a designed key visual rather than a random collection of prompt words. Now comes the more revealing test: editing without losing the composition. I ask Gemini to keep the astronaut, camera angle, skyline, and framing, but change night to sunrise, make the orbit trails warm gold, add a subtle Zimbabwean textile treatment only on the cuffs, preserve the clean left side, and add no words or logos. The before and after is clear. Night becomes sunrise. Cool magenta trails become warm gold. The astronaut and skyline remain recognizably in the same concept, and the left side stays usable for a headline. That kind of controlled revision is more valuable than endlessly generating unrelated options. It is not perfect identity locking. Fine details can shift between generations, and the cuff pattern is too subtle to confirm confidently at this zoom. For exact product placement, typography, or brand geometry, I would still finish in a design tool. But for concept art, thumbnails, pitch visuals, and rapid direction changes, this is strong. Then I take the same visual language into Gemini's video creator, Omni. The prompt asks for an 8-second cinematic 16:9 shot, a chrome astronaut floating above the futuristic skyline of Harare at sunrise, a slow camera push-in, golden orbit trails around a blue planet, drifting particles, realistic reflections, smooth motion, and no text. The generation wait is part of the real experience, so I am leaving enough of it in to show that this is not instant. When the result appears, it is playable in the page and available to download. Now watch the actual file. The shot has a readable beginning, middle, and end. The astronaut advances toward camera, the skyline stays coherent, the sunrise reflections travel across the suit, and the golden trails build visual energy around the subject. Particles and background bodies add depth, while the push-in gives it a polished reveal rather than a moving still. There is also a measurable miss. I requested 8 seconds. The downloaded file is just over 10 seconds. The futuristic city should be treated as stylized Harare, Zimbabwe, not a documentary-accurate reconstruction. And as with any generated video, continuity deserves frame-by-frame review. Still, the deliverable is real. A downloadable 1280 by 720, 24 frame per second video with sound. For a concept trailer, pitch deck, social cutaway, or pre-visualization shot that is immediately useful. Across all three tests, the biggest advantage is not any single output. It is the loop. Describe an outcome, inspect something tangible, point to the exact failure, and ask for a correction in the same conversation. Code becomes a working preview. A night image becomes sunrise without restarting the idea. A still world direction becomes a downloadable motion shot. That makes the Gemini web app in Chrome especially useful for prototypes, campaign concepts, storyboards, learning, and early client conversations. It compresses several handoffs into one place. But speed does not remove responsibility. Generated code still needs security, accessibility, browser, and performance testing. Images need brand rights and detail review. Video needs continuity checks, factual caution, and final editing. Prompts can drift. We saw a clipped planet, a subtle edit that is hard to verify, and a duration that did not match the request. Treat the model as a fast, creative, and technical collaborator, not an automatic approval stamp. Here is my scorecard from the recorded test. Coding and interaction, 8.5 out of 10. Three-dimensional style animation and visual polish, 8. Image generation, 8.5. Controlled image editing, 8. Omni video quality, 8, with a deduction for the duration miss. Reliability on the first attempt, 7.5. Overall, Gemini in the web app earns 8.2 out of 10. The strongest result is not that it made 3 attractive things. It made a working experience, accepted a specific correction, preserved creative direction across an image edit, and delivered a usable video file, all in Chrome, with the proof visible. My verdict: this is already good enough to accelerate real creative and coding work, provided a human keeps testing, directing, and deciding what is actually finished. If you want the prompts and the full correction workflow, they are on screen in this video. Which test should I push further next?
Thank you for watching. Click here to subscribe. Click here to subscribe for more AI updates.